Welcome to this video tutorial. This is showing how to structure your answers in order to maximise your marks. We are going to look at a paragraph as an example. This will aim to explore a 10-mark question for culture and identity, which is off paper 2, but it will also be perfect as a recap of knowledge for family and education. So today we are focusing on how to structure your answer to score well on and outline and explain 10 marks. As a recap, 10 mark outline and explain, you've got 15 minutes to answer, 7.5 minutes per paragraph. We would be liking you to do 2 balanced paragraphs. It will always ask you for reasons, ways, effects, problems, strengths, weaknesses, etc. of a particular idea, view, theory or method. And also look for the question hooks, as they will also require you to make link between the two. They will only appear on paper 1, theory and methods, and topics on paper 2. Here is a generic or a basic mark scheme, so if you can see what you need to do. If we focus on the top band, you'll have to have good knowledge shown through keywords and concepts which are relevant, and any specialist terms may be explained to show understanding. And there also should be 2 applications of relevant material, so link it to the question, and we'll explain this in more detail in a mo. And lastly, appropriate analysis. So let's have a little bit of a look. So the best way to explain good structure in a 10-mark outline and explain is to explore what the question actually is asking you to do and understand where the marks come from. As with the longer answers, preparation before you start is the key to ensure that you answer what the question is asking you. So as with the 20 marker, read the question once, then read it again a second time, but this time underline the trigger words or hooks that are placed in the question, using 1 or 2 minutes out of the 15 minutes to give you a brief plan of ideas. This will mean 2 things. Firstly, you will fully understand the separate parts of the question that you must write about, and secondly, as there are multiple ways of answering it, it means that you can choose the best 2 that you can write most about and show application between the 2 parts. So why should we underline? Underlining and highlighting focuses your attention to what the question actually is asking. I make my students all the time to refer to them as part A and part B. These are the 2 parts of the question from 2 separate aspects of the specification that the examiner is asking you to show application of knowledge. The aim here is to challenge you to apply the knowledge to show wider understanding rather than just learning chunks of AO1. So how do we go about structuring an answer for this? Well, once again, I draw upon an example so we can identify the 2 parts of the question, show the application and any AO3. So as you can see, this student has written a chunky paragraph which should take about 7 or 8 minutes to write. So firstly, let's identify the different parts. The first part of the paragraph is about agency or an agent of socialization. And this is linking to the first part of the question. So we're going to indicate that in red. And this is the student's knowledge about one of the agencies of socialization. This student has chosen education and has given you a little bit of knowledge about Marxist, and that one of these agencies is an ideological state apparatus. Then they discuss part B. They transmit and reinforce the ruling class ideas, but then what the student does is start to make the link between the 2, using their knowledge of both. Using the agency of socialization, which is education, this student then explains a process within education using bells and Gintis, applying the AO1 knowledge of their schooling in capitalist America, and gives examples of the values, for example, being obedient in schools, that are essential in workers in capitalism. And this helps reinforce the ruling class ideas, which is clarified at the end of the paragraph, that hard-working students will succeed. I have put that all in blue. So already this student has shown good knowledge about an agency of socialization, and they have a study to show how it, in this case, reinforces ruling class ideas and using sentences that link them together. And the student then cements this application by having a sentence that says, this reinforces the ruling class ideas that hard-working, conforming students will succeed, but only in becoming workers that benefit the ruling class. This student ends by adding a final piece of analysis as they dig further to suggest that this process is not as straightforward, as not all students do become conforming students. Rather, in the case of Willis's working class lads, they reject this, but still end up in the working class jobs where capitalism requires them to be. This leads us to the second paragraph. You would start with the second agency of socialisation is, and then you could choose either the family and household or do education again, and make sure that you apply relevant knowledge, ideas, keywords and studies. Then start to apply the studies to show how they transmit or reinforce the values of the ruling class. So for example, the family with ideological functions. This is the idea that family transmits ruling class values, that there is always somebody in charge. The family does this by socialising children into the idea that hierarchy and inequality is inevitable, and parental, usually the father, parental power over children gets them used to the idea that there is always somebody in charge, preparing them for working life. And what you might want to do is highlight the point that it's usually paternal power, or through the man, which allows analysis or links to feminist ideas. There is no reason that you cannot use education twice to make two different points. The question asks for specifically two ways agencies of socialisation reinforce, not for two agencies. So really you could actually discuss education twice. So another idea or values are transmitted is through the correspondence principle. And this is by Bowers and Gintis. Schools mirror the workplace and give examples of this. Discuss the values of the ruling class, that they want obedient workers, and this is transmitted through the organisation of the school via the hidden curriculum. Again, discuss how the hidden curriculum just doesn't reinforce ruling class ideas for capitalism, but how it might do this for patriarchy as well, which actually, incidentally, could benefit capitalism anyway. A second way from education could be from the ideas of hard work, through this idea of myth of meritocracy. The values of the ruling class is that if you work hard, you will succeed. That's meritocracy. And it's a value that the working class really do believe in, but the reality is a myth. So your second paragraph could explore the myth of meritocracy, and you could actually link back to Willis and how the boys saw through this myth, and that they saw through the ideology of capitalism. So to ensure you don't miss any parts of the question out, use the template to answer the question often helps, for a number of reasons. Firstly, they show knowledge of both parts of the question, giving examples of studies or applying key words, so it adds details to avoid the answer being brief. Secondly, it shows a linking sentence which ties both parts together with a short explanation. And lastly, a further comment to give analysis is given. So if you prefer, you can use a template, you could copy it out and practice this question, and this will allow you to organise your thoughts, prompt you to show the links between the two and offer that analysis at the bottom. So lastly, overall, when answering a 10-mark outline and explain, remember to show good AO1, that is knowledge of both parts of the question, then show how part A will link to part B, offering a further analytical explanation right at the end. So as always, thank you for watching. If you have found it useful, please click like. Any questions or comments, please pop them below and have a go at some other 10 markers of the videos that I've done so far. Have a great week and I shall speak to you again soon.